Zimbabwe cash crisis worse. Talking about Venezuela once again. Systemic important banks. They removed the one factor you do this thing right here called monetary
Next recession.
Recession will be
a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months, but a lot of things about this particular one have not been typical. So
a crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
I go to bed every night, I dream of another recession. If you know what to do, if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.
Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RT News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, we're going to be talking about the recent elections in China and Russia and how I believe these two gentlemen here have solidified themselves as the leaders of the new school, as President Xi has a lifetime term as well as Vladimir Putin has 6 more years to continue this monetary restructuring that's already underway. But before I dive into today's articles, as always, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button for more RTD News updates, as well as that tab button there to be notified of future RTD live talks, as well as updates. And more importantly, if you have not yet, I want you to join me on Steemit, where I often share articles on matters such as this that I'm not able to cover via video. And also, if you're new to RTD altogether, I want to encourage you to visit the RTD University page, where I put together all my prior interviews dealing with monetary matters, as well as this monetary restructuring that's underway, as well as the importance of holding sound money in your possession today as all these things begin to unravel. So without further ado, let's dive into today's articles. So as I mentioned, I have a couple articles I want to share with you to shine some light on the recent re-elections of these presidents here, and how, in my opinion, I believe that these gentlemen continuing on their efforts to really bring in this monetary restructuring program has a lot to do with the idea of keeping in place what has already been established, and that is all the formations of all these institutions such as the AIIB, the BRICS institution, as well as all these bilateral trade agreements that's in place. So it's quite obvious to me that in no way would they allow any new gentleman to step into a position of powers that would disrupt this current ongoing trend of everything shifting away from the Western Hemisphere to the Eastern Hemisphere, and especially as we move closer to March 26, which is the day of which the Chinese yuan gold-backed futures is supposed to come online. And so as time moves forward, there's going to be more news and more events that will really usher in this continued movement away from the Federal Reserve note and really begin to shine more light in a mainstream sense on this de-dollarization process, as these two countries here have more than blatantly said that they're looking to de-dollarize their economies. And so as always, I want to share my thoughts on these articles here, but more importantly, at the very end, show you why these two gentlemen here are considered the leaders of the new school and this new global economy that they're forming, and more importantly, how that relates to you. And so as always, before I dive into these articles, if you find this information informative, please share this with your family and friends. Become more aware of what's happening outside of this current FBI situation here and all our internal conflicts that we're having amongst ourselves now. So in my opinion, I believe it's very important to begin to really become more aware of world news and how this all at the end of the day will come back to impact us here in the United States of America. So let's dive into today's articles. So the very first article here says, President for life. Xi Jinping reappointed as China's top guy with no term limits. So I'll skim through this briefly. It says China rubber statement legislature on Saturday unanimously approved the reappointment of Xi Jinping as president with no limit on the number of terms he can serve. It says all 2,970 members of the National People's Congress in attendance approved Xi's reappointment, while Wang received just 1 vote against. Xi, who leads the running 90 million member Communist Party, was also reappointed as the head of government commission that commands the military. He is already head of the identical party body overseeing the 2 million member force. Says Xi, 64, is considered the most powerful Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. Then it says economic growth and social stability have allowed Xi to amend the constitution and carry out other moves that once seemed highly contentious, said Carrie Brown, professor of Chinese studies and director of Lao China Institute in London. Says, quoted as saying, really no one is going to shout and moan too much because growth and stability are considered so important, Brown said Friday in a talk on foreign relations in Beijing. So here we have President Xi Jinping, who has basically changed the Constitution, or been allowed to change the Constitution, to keep him in the position of authority over their restructuring process that's going on internally within their country, and also to lead them into the future, of which is mentioned that economic stability is a major part of that. And as I read more articles, it's going to talk about how their global dominance and implementation into the global world stage is also a reason as to why he's been put in this position. So just more indication of how this whole leader aspect is really playing into future expectations of this country here in our monetary system. So more information there if you're interested in reading for yourself. Next one here says, why Xi Jinping's term limits move makes China-U.S. conflict more likely. So this is a very interesting article here, and it has a lot to do with the idea of President Xi being in power for life for the most part. And it does a lot of comparisons to how Mao, the president before him, was in power for a very long time, and some of the conflicts it caused internally, as well as that long-term perspective there. And so it's quite interesting to read how they say it's going to cause a lot of conflicts within their country as well as outside. So if you're interested in finding out more about this, feel free to read for yourself. So the very next article here we have about Vladimir Putin. And it says, Vladimir Putin easily wins new 6-year term as Russian president. And it gives a little information about that. It says, if Putin serves to the end of his new 4th term, which expires in 2024, he'll become the longest serving leader of Russia since Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. Next article here from First Post, it says, Vladimir Putin re-elected, Xi Jinping, Maduro congratulate Russian president amid silence from global leaders. This article here basically just highlights how a couple other countries have chimed in and wished President Putin a congratulations on being re-elected president. So we have Xi here, we have the Serbian president, we have Venezuelan president, we have Raul Castro down in Cuba, as well as we have the Kazakhstan president here. So just more gentlemen sharing some of their thoughts on how this is a great opportunity for Russia to have Vladimir as their leader. So more information and details if you want to read that for yourself. The next article here is from the Economic Times, and it says, China unveils brand new cabinet to run revamped government under Xi. So along with President Xi receiving a lifetime term, he also had a chance to kind of reshape the entire structure of their government there. And so here it lists a couple of people he's appointed into his new cabinet and his new style of government, which is going to be underway. And give you an idea what's going on here, it says China today appointed a whole new set of top officials, including a defense minister to head the revamped government days after Xi Jinping begin a second 5-year tenure following the removal of a 2-term limit. It says the new lineup approved by the rubber stamp parliament. The nation's People Congress includes 4 vice premiers. Says their names were approved by the nearly 3,000 deputies of the NPC. And then to take it even further, this article here in the ABC News. And so here we have the appointment of a new economic czar who is supposed to be more globally minded since he's from Harvard. And so just the very fact that there's a Harvard gentleman that's now in this new economy that they're looking to form lets me know that the future as well as expectations for this new government structure has a lot to do with the new world that they're going to create along with Russia and as well as all those allies there. And so give you an idea what's going on here, it says, dubbed China's economic mastermind by Hong Kong newspaper, the silver-haired Liu is making a late career change to a politically challenging role, carrying out plans after 2 decades designing them. It says he is close to Xi, China's most dominant figure since the 1970s, but unlike previous reformer chief, has no background in industry or as a mayor or provincial governor. So this talks about the new czar, Liu He's. It says Chinese economic czar is a Harvard-trained supporter of free markets who is President Xi Jinping's top advisor, but has no experience fighting the bureaucratic battle the post can require. So that leads right into the very last article here, talking about how the newly elected President Xi steers China towards prosperity. So this is an article with a lot of pictures and whatnot. But at the end of the day, this whole leader of the new school and how this will play out, in my opinion, is the fact that with these 2 gentlemen being placed back into their roles of leadership of their countries, and in paying attention to how this whole restructuring has taken place over the last decade plus, is how our economy here in the United States of America has been leading the world with this whole central banking nightmare. So with these 2 gentlemen placed into leadership kind of solidifies the idea that they have been chosen to be the leaders of this new school or this new economy that they're planning on ushering in with the continuing expansion of their economies and backdoor deals and programs they're setting up. which in my opinion was really triggered by this past Great Recession with the monetary response and fiscal response of our government here for everything from the QE to the zero interest rates to the easy money printing and whatnot have all led to this whole restructuring of this economy / monetary system that these two gentlemen here are looking to implement and to begin leading the way towards this new future that they have in play. And so it's just a matter of time before all this stuff here happens to become more publicized to where it really becomes obvious that the whole idea of the de-dollarization, which these two gentlemen here have started, will become more mainstream news. And that when that happens, that will be very uncomfortable for us here in the United States of America, because if no one is willing to lend us money or be recipients of our debt, then at that point, there's no need for the treasuries and bonds and everything that our government uses to exist and to continue to fund itself. And so at that point, there will be a true restructuring, because our economy will be affected by this shift away from our current monetary position as the global reserve currency. And at that point, things will become very tough within our country as inflation will spike up. And then that will lead to all the markets crumbling and whatnot, as well as the very uncomfortableness of all those promises that are due at this particular point as well, with the retirements, entitlements, you name it. When all that stuff becomes obvious that it can no longer be honored, that's when all hell will truly break loose in this country, and has a lot to do with these two gentlemen here becoming the leaders of the new school, or this new economy that they're looking to usher in. And it has a lot to do with the implementation of this gold-backed yuan future oil contract situation that's coming out this month, which will definitely be a game changer. So as always, I wanted to get this news out to you today and get your thoughts on it. So feel free to leave me a comment down below. And of course, as always, share this information with your family and friends so they can see the role that these two gentlemen have been placed in as leaders of their own economies, as well as that of our new monetary system, which will be implemented from their dealings. So other than that, hope all is well. See you guys later.